We are Venom.
Unsurprisingly, over the years, the Venom symbiote has had many different hosts and just as many weird and disturbing, complicated relationships with them. These hosts and their symbiotic partnership, sometimes beneficial, sometimes not so much, are what makes up the story, and while this list spans multiple continuities, a lot of them may actually surprise you. Like this T-Rex, but that kind of works out because it's already got the teeth going on. We are Barney. May is the first official month of everything Venom on the channel, and to celebrate, I have some great Venom apparel linked in the description. Expect more videos to come, and if you have any ideas, whether it be on video games, movies, and comics that Venom has starred in, let me know in the comments below.
We're poison to you, Spider-Man. That's why we call ourselves Venom.
For a long time, it was believed that Spider-Man was the first human host of the symbiote, but it was actually Deadpool that bonded with it first. This happened during the Secret Wars. Prior to this, the Venom symbiote had been imprisoned by others of its kind after a series of unpleasant instances, including its first host using it for mass genocide of its homeworld, but regardless of that, its prison ended up as a part of Battleworld. Deadpool happens across it, and hoping for a makeover, bonded with it for a few minutes before realizing that it was actually alive and interfacing directly with his mind.
I'm touching myself tonight.
Now, Deadpool's mind is not somewhere anyone wants to go willingly, and rightly concerned that his sanity, or lack thereof, would adversely affect it, which it almost certainly did, he returned it to its prison just before Spider-Man arrived and bonded with it himself. Everybody knows Peter Parker wore the symbiote suit for some time, and it had a lot of advantages over his normal outfit. Firstly, it could produce its own incredibly strong webbing, meaning he didn't need to worry about web shooters and running out of fluid and cartridges, and it could also transform into street clothes whenever he wanted, which used to be a big deal back in the day because those web shooters would always run out of webbing just when at a very crucial moment.
Now you owe me one. Cross me again, I'll do more than take your wings.
Of course. You won't regret this, I swear.
However, eventually he realized that it was trying to permanently bond with him and often controlled his body while he slept. Deciding that no badass suit was worth that, he managed to remove it with a little help from Mr. Fantastic and the Human Torch, but the symbiote escaped, and after trying and failing to bond with Spidey again, it fled. This rejection is what started its weird obsession with Spider-Man. And the symbiote had another brief stint of time with Deadpool before meeting its next and most well-known host,
Eddie.
When it found Eddie, he was in kind of a bad place. He'd just been fired from his job as a reporter because Spider-Man debunked a story he had published. His career was ruined, his wife had left him, and shortly before this, he had also found out he had terminal adrenal cancer. Contemplating suicide, he entered the Our Lady of Saints church to pray for forgiveness. It was at this point that the symbiote saw him. This kept the cancer at bay, but Eddie's hatred for Spider-Man warped the symbiote's own feelings into a desire to either kill Peter Parker or reclaim him as a host. Over the years, Venom would fight Spider-Man numerous times, but also help him on occasion. It was this weird relationship, a mixture of hatred, longing, and an overwhelming bloodlust.
The way I see it, we can do whatever we want.
I mean, come on, we've all been there. The symbiote also briefly bonded with Eddie's ex-wife a couple of times, but they proved to be so traumatic she committed suicide later on. Over time, Venom's bloodlust became too much for Eddie to handle. Eventually, Eddie sold the symbiote for money to cure his cancer to a mobster named Don Fortunato. However, he would come to regret this and desire to be reunited with Venom once again, putting the we back in We Are Venom.
We're poison to you, Spider-Man. That's why we call ourselves Venom.
The Don's son, Angelo, became the second Venom, but after a brief killing spree and being deemed unworthy, the symbiote abandoned him in the middle of a jump between buildings. Fuck that guy.
Anybody care about what I want?
I do.
Shut up. Get out.
Later, it joined forces with GARGAN, more commonly known as the Scorpion. His vendetta against Spider-Man continued, and Venom eventually ended up a part of Norman Osborn's Thunderbolts, who were hired to hunt down members of the fugitive Secret Avengers. However, the symbiote was becoming more feral, and GARGAN's limited control declined. Eventually, he gave into the creature's bloodlust entirely and indulged its appetite for other humans, Skrulls, Kree, and pretty much anything it wanted. To try and bring him back in check, Norman Osborn gave him a suppressant to regain control so he could use Venom in his upcoming plans. However, during a battle, Miss Marvel tried to defeat him by separating the two of them, but the symbiote bonded with her instead, Miss Marvel. His time with Carol Danvers was short-lived, however, as with Spider-Man's help she absorbed the energy from some power lines and expelled it to escape. It briefly rejoined with Mac, but it was soon removed again, this time by the US military, who took it into custody for study and would eventually assign it to its next host, Flash Thompson. Flash was a former classmate of Peter Parker's who would go on to fight in the US military, but lost both of his legs in the Iraq War. However, when he bonded with the symbiote, it could create prosthetic legs and of course grant him all of the previous powers. When bonded with Flash, the suit took on more of this body armor style appearance and would later become known as Agent Venom. During this time, the symbiote also briefly bonded with a German shepherd named Samson, a gorilla, the superior Spider-Man, which was Dr. Octopus in control of Peter Parker's body. That was weird, and it even fused with the Red Hulk. Eventually, Agent Venom joined the Guardians of the Galaxy. However, whilst with them, Flash lost control and the symbiote bonded with Groot, Rocket, and then Drax in this series of events that led it back to the symbiote homeworld, where it was cleansed of its hatred and bloodlust before rebonding to Flash. It would later be briefly separated from Flash and bond with a space pirate leader named Mercurio in a ploy to assist their allies. Eventually, they returned to Earth, but they were once again separated, and the symbiote ended up looking for a new host. The person who it eventually found was a former army ranger named Lee Price. Lee was about to be gunned down in a shootout between two gangs, so it bonded with him to save his life and was instantly pleased to learn he was a soldier like Flash. However, Lee was nothing like Flash and actually began to dominate the symbiote and forced it to massacre both gangs. When it tried to stop itself, Lee forced the traumatic memories of his childhood onto it until it gave in. The symbiote tried to sabotage Lee's evil actions, and eventually the two became separated thanks to a little help from Spider-Man and the FBI.
FBI want me?
That's right.
Stop lying.
I don't lie.
Tell the truth.
I'm telling the truth.
The FBI took the symbiote, but Eddie Brock stepped back in and became Venom once again. Reunited with Eddie, they became a hero once again, eventually being summoned into an alternate universe by venomized versions of Captain America and Doctor Strange. They're also with tons of other venomized heroes from other universes in this story who technically not bonded with our Venom are still pretty friggin' awesome. Look, there have actually been a couple of other what-if stories and alternate universe characters who have become Venom that are pretty awesome even if it's not part of the main universe. Now, who's your favorite? The correct answer, of course, is the main one. I'm talking about that T-Rex, baby. Let me know your favorite in the comments below.